booties for black girl nerds.
Thank you guys for your time. I appreciate it. I really love the romance, the romantic feel, just everything about it, conflict, joy, pain, it just all feels very romantic. Freida, beginning with you, when you think of kind of embodying that feeling throughout the film, what is romance like for you? Is it in this era? Is it the subtle glance? Is it the coquettish kind of eye blinking? Like when you think about romance, how do you embody it?
It's kind of this time period is kind of the romance is in a lot of different things. I think language is very, very important, and how people communicated, the banter, the back and forth, the wit, the humor, all of that also points in the direction of romance, because it's not just you're having intelligent conversations, and they're all still very measured, in the way that you're having it. So I think for me, it's definitely the dialogues really help, and how they shape. They're very beautifully written in this particular film, and then of course I feel it's in moments like you mentioned, like the glances, because there's not a lot of just throw yourself on the person kind of situation happening in this time period. It's very controlled. You're holding back, but you're also giving in with all of the subtle glances that you just mentioned. So definitely the glances, the language, and the ballroom dancing. I think that also is a real language of love in these movies.
I love it. I'm going to add the eye glances. I'm going to put it on my list here to my repertoire. I'm going to try, some new energy and see what happens out in these streets. Ṣọpẹ, for you, I don't want to call them lists. We'll call them vintage deal breakers, because that's all they are nowadays. It's the same thing. It was a principle then, it's a principle now. So in terms of rigidity, where do you lie in what's too much on a list? What's not enough? Are you a list kind of person?
I make lists, but I don't tend to make lists about other human beings, I'll make a list of tasks to achieve, or other like goals, whatever. But I think, hey, you can make lists about people. I do think, like you said, today people still know what they want or what they're looking for, and I think that's important. But I would say the point at which a list becomes like inappropriate is when you start attacking things that people can't change about themselves, or making people feel less than, I think that was the issue with Julia in the film. She was made to feel less than because of his list, and it's something I needed to talk about.
For sure. And lastly, just the sheer elegance of the both of you, of the whole cast with the costuming, it really added a different layer of romance again to it. Freida, for you, are the costumes comfortable? We've seen different periods where it's so corseted and all these different things. Is it comfortable? Is that a comfortable era? How did you enjoy all of that?
I think it was more comfortable than I thought it was going to be, because every time you think of a corset, you think you're not going to be able to breathe. I was pregnant while I was filming, and I managed to breathe the first couple of weeks, so it was completely fine. It just started getting a little intense towards the end. But what was the time period right after this that the costumes became even tighter, and
right.
I can't remember the time period that was right after this, but the Victorian period, right? Was Regency was followed Victorian?
I can't answer this question.
I think it was the Victorian period where the costumes became even more rigid, So there was a certain openness and flowiness to the Regency period, and I believe it's the Victorian period where it became even more rigid. So I'm glad that we were not dancing around in that period, But yeah, I think the Regency costumes weren't as difficult as I thought it was going to be.
Well, it looked beautiful.
I could hide a baby underneath that, so it's definitely easy.
That's amazing. I didn't know that. I probably should have done a little math, but you did that very, very gracefully. When so Shopee over to, we've got a mother carrying her baby there. How much more extra grace do some of those
Jeandra,
hands take?
sorry, we got to wrap
Oh,
up.
sorry. Oh, see, you didn't give me my rap, so I was going to keep on rapping. Well, I thank you guys for your
Thank
time.
you.
This is a beautiful project, and I appreciate you talking to me.
Lovely to see you. Have a good
Thank
day.
you. Hello, you
Hi.
guys. Thank you so much for your
Hi.
time.
Big
It's such a
fan.
pleasure.
Oh.
I
see you.
love. It's great to see you, both of you too. I love these types of films, the air of romance, sometimes it goes off course and it's just very beautiful. And this particularly was very rewarding to me. Zawe, beginning with you, what is the fine line, do you think, between having that romantic feeling for someone and having that contempt for someone? What is that thin line really like, and how does that work between Julia and Captain Henry?
Such a good question. Well, these are the types of love stories that I really warm to in literature and film. The enemies becoming lovers trope I just like in rom-com and I think just the uniting thing is passion, really. Like someone's got to do something to you to get on your nerves. If you feel indifferent, then you're completely like, I don't know,
You need to be
already in a
challenged.
friendship zone.
Yeah.
So they do present each other with a challenge and probably in a way a bit of a mirror as well. That's maybe what annoys them the most.
And we kind of lent into that a little bit with Emma, didn't we? If you remember, we were like, we may as well push the disdain a little bit at the beginning to make the 180 more satisfying in some way. Maybe.
Hopefully.
I like how the two of you mentioned that, like it being a mirror, because it's always the yin and the yang and soft and the hard, and sometimes you just need a companion. Theo, is that fair to say that maybe they find a kindred sort of spirit in each other and the ways they like to walk through life?
Yeah, I think they're very similar in that way. And the nice thing about his character is he's not kind of offended by her brittleness or some of her rejection. She's fairly adamant from the beginning that he's below her, but he finds it kind of amusing, and I like that element of it. He's not put off by her. He delights in her prickly naughtiness.
Mm-hmm. Is it a lost art? Zawe, do you think the romance element to dating is a lost art nowadays? Is it still possible to be romantic in a modern era compared to our people here?
I think it is. I think there's always ways of romancing other people and also like yourself. I think that's why I wonder if women especially love period drama in a way. I mean, I hope that's not being exclusive, but there is something about being able to really like get in your own sense of your sensuality. And I romance myself by having like bubble baths. That to me feels like a romantic evening. Does that sound really pathetic?
Yes. No.
I expose myself as being a very strange woman. But I think what's lovely about the romance of this bygone time that we're presenting is how sort of chaste it is and how deeply sensual it is rather than explicit. I think getting to that romantic, less kind of gaudy place is harder in the modern day, but I think there's always ways of doing it. Does that make sense?
I like that. 3 dates, you go on a walk, you go to a party, boom, you're going to get married. So Theo, when you think about your first love, real briefly, how many days did it take, or how many dates before you figured out you were in love? Is it mirrored? Did it only take 3 dates or so, like it does with our characters here? How long did it take?
One night of love. No, I think if my first, I don't know how you would define love, but I remember my first, obsession was when I was very young at primary school. She was my first kiss, French kiss. Still remember her. She was called Rosalind Avery, back at the Assembly Hall.
Shout out to you, Rosalind.
Shout out to you,
Okay.
Rosalind. So it took
A muse,
one...
the earliest
Yeah.
muse.
Exactly, that's the earliest muse. What about you? Who's your earliest muse, Harry?
Oh, my earliest crush was, there was a really lovely boy at school called Charlie who was just very cheeky and, I don't know, he just seemed to kind of
Get you.
literally draw outside the lines. So yeah, him, we're probably about 4.
All right. Well, they better go see Mr. Malcolm's List because you guys are good in it. They can go together. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for your time. I
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Sorry we took up your time talking about...
No, I loved it because I wanted to ask you something different. So that's great.
Love that. Thank
Thanks
you.
a lot.
Thank you, Emma, for your time today.
Thank you. Lovely to meet you.
Lovely to meet you as well. I enjoyed this so much. And one of the biggest, aside from your very talented principal cast, I enjoyed the contributions of some of the secondary characters that really nailed home, from Divian, who plays John, and also Ashley Park, who plays Gertie. They were just so funny and they really, really added to it. When you're shaping a scene, what is the balance between having those secondary characters contribute to chaotic scenes, but still make sure they have their moment as well?
Yeah, I actually really love you asked this because it's a really, it's one of the most special things about the film. So when we made the short film back in 2018, Divian Ladwer is a friend of our casting director, and he came and did Tamara Knockaert a favour to come down and be a footman in the background. Shanna Gregory, who plays Molly, is a dear friend of my second unit director's partner on the film, and she came down and did a huge favour to play a background character, which was just the maid. And Divian came up to me and he said, I know how I'm going to get myself into this scene. And I went, okay, go on. Like, this bold, we just met, but sure. And he pitched me this idea and I burst out laughing. And that set the tone for John and Molly and the way we approach them the entire process. They don't exist in the book. They don't exist in the original material. They are self-made, improvised characters. They were on the short film and they were on the feature film. And we continued that process through the entire journey. So they are unbelievably talented performers, and they would come in and watch, as you said, this incredible body of actors doing all this incredible stuff with material, and they would observe the scenes and we would back channel all day. And then we would do their coverage at the end, and their coverage and their performances and their lines and their reactions was born of their ability to spot comedy in the moments and react to it. And then I have to pay huge credit in the same sentence to Kate Hickey, our editor, who also on the short film saw what they were doing and absolutely found the ways to punctuate our story in this really subtle way with subtle comedy and also like a subtle, play on class throughout the entire film. And so I really can't take too much credit for the genius of Divian Ladwer and Shanna Gregory. They really did so much of that on their own. And Ashley Park was actually a very last-minute addition to the cast. We met a few weeks before we started shooting, and I remember walking into the office and I said to the producers, I really want to change this character up and make it Ashley Park. And Laura Lewis and Laura Rister and Katie Holly, my producers, were like, you do understand there's a 14-day quarantine, it's COVID, and we're shooting in 2 weeks. And I was like, yeah, but I think we should try and make this happen. And to be fair to them, they went off, and I remember walking back into the office 3 days later, and they're like, we're making this happen. And we very quickly overturned what in the book is a 40-something-year-old older woman who's been around society a long time into Ashley's very fun interpretation of this sort of very exciting cameo in the film. I mean, also the girl just flew in and brought this burst of energy with her when we were halfway through filming. And the girl's accent was flawless from day one. And that day we shot in the horse auction, I don't think any of us have laughed as much in our life, because she kind of all brought us up when we were all starting to get tired for the first time. So again, like, the supporting cast in this are incredible. I always set out to make an ensemble piece. I love the idea of this not just being about Malcolm and Selina, and I wanted the whole world around them to live. You know, I think sort of harps back to my love of 90s rom-coms. Whenever I think of Notting Hill, I still think of Emma Chambers around that dinner table, you know, and I wanted people to watch this film and remember them, not just the main two, who are amazing. But yeah, it's lovely to talk about that.
Oh, I just adored them. They really, and Ashley, I am a fan of hers. I've seen other work of hers. And I love that burst of energy and that kind of a court jester kind of energy with the costuming. And she was really, really a nice balance to this tangled dance that the rest of them are doing.
She's this perfect bit of nonsense and energy just when the film needs it, you know?
Absolutely.
So it's all her.
Well, I enjoyed this very much. I thank you for your time. This is such a lovely film, and I appreciate you speaking to me. Thank you so much.
No, thank you.
Better shake your booties for black girl nerves. Better shake your booties for black girl nerves.